Locations in the comments, everybody, as y'all are entering the room. Locations in the comments. Locations in the comments. Leave a comment with your location where you are checking in from. Today we are talking about the drone strikes. Is America committing a war crime out in the ocean? Is America committing a war crime? We're going to talk about that here today. Shout yourselves out in the comments. Tell me your locations in the comments. Let's make sure we are active where we need to be. We are live on Rumble. Good morning, Rumble. Live on YouTube. Good morning, YouTube. Live on X. Good morning, X. We are live on LinkedIn. Good morning, LinkedIn. My name on LinkedIn and X and Rumble and YouTube is the same. It is at Dre All Day. LinkedIn, X, Rumble, and YouTube is the same name, at Dre All Day. And because I can't get the same name on all the platforms, I have different names on Facebook. Facebook is /Work on Your Game University. Facebook /Work on Your Game University. And Instagram is at Dre Baldwin. And TikTok is at Work on Your Game. But if you just type in Work on Your Game or Dre Baldwin or Dre All Day on any one of those platforms, I'm pretty sure I'm going to come up. Let me see. I'm going to test this out, actually. Let's find out if I'm right about this. I know I'm right about it on TikTok on one level, but not on, I know one of those names, I know it always comes up on TikTok, but let's see if I'm right. And I think my holder here is not working. So if I go on, if I can even get this off. So let's see. Give me locations in the comments, everybody. So I'm on TikTok and I'm going to search. So on TikTok, I just type in Dre Baldwin. And if you type in Dre Baldwin on TikTok, my account comes up first. So that part they got. If you type in Dre All Day on TikTok, my videos come up too. So if you type in Dre All Day or Dre Baldwin on TikTok, I'll come up like I predicted. And let's see on Instagram. If you go on Instagram and you type in Dre All Day, you get, type in Dre All Day on Instagram. I do not come up first. They put a couple people whose names actually are Dre All Day. Then if you go to accounts, I'm not coming up. Audio, tags, and places. DreAllDay.com does come up as a location. That's my business location. It does come up. So it doesn't, you see some of my videos, but it doesn't come up that way. Dre Baldwin doesn't come up. Work on Your Game. Type in Work on Your Game on Instagram, and one of my business accounts comes up. So Instagram is not indexing the way it's supposed to, but that's all right. We'll work through our problems here. So again, the topic here today, we're talking about the drone strikes as y'all coming in. Shout yourselves out in the comments. This holder that I use to keep this thing up it has seen better days. I think this might not work anymore. But give me your locations in the comments, folks, so we can get started. Let's see. We're talking about the drone strikes coming from our Secretary of War office. I guess that's what it's called now, Secretary of War. Shout yourselves out in the comments, folks. Let's get into it. And I don't think this is working anymore. No, it is not. Let's see. All right, so let's see what we got over on TikTok. I'm just shouting out a couple of people who put their locations in the comments, then we'll get into the topic. Leah, good morning. Thank you for the heart early. Nikki, congrats. #1 gifter badge. Checking in from Connecticut. Carol Ann Collins from Newburgh, New York. Leah, thank you for the Go Popular. Echoes 9711. Good morning. 140.6 Walnut Creek, California is in the building. Leather and Pearls, thank you for the heart early. Happiness Now from ATL. Leather and Pearls from Virginia. Leah from Tifton, Georgia. Good morning. Leona Lever from Massachusetts. Wheezy May from Georgia. Good morning. Echo said Viking Land, Pennsylvania. Where's Viking Land, Pennsylvania? I'm from Pennsylvania. I never heard of Viking Land. Where is that? That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I just never heard of it. Where's Viking Land? I'm assuming that's somewhere in the western part of the state. You tell me if I got that right or wrong. I've never heard of Viking Land, Pennsylvania. I know that might not be the official name of it, but even if it's called that colloquially, I never heard that before. Sarah L. checking in from Naples, Florida. Shout out to Naples. Very clean place. Pristine BK5 from Charlotte, North Carolina. Good morning. Sunshine and Whiskey from Chicago, Windy City. Happiness Now said it's 32 degrees in North Georgia. I heard there's a big cold snap just hit everywhere in America. There was snow and all types of stuff going on in the northeastern part of the country. So shout out to everybody with the snow. Ashley Mack said, good morning, Dre. Hottie Toddy. What's Hottie Toddy mean? Ashley Mack, good morning. Leather and Pearls, thank you for the lightning bolt. Not influencing anyone, said good morning. L. Johnson from Union, New Jersey, good morning. Leather and Pearls said, I've become a title gifter for 10 times. All right, congratulations. I know they gave you a gift for that. TikTok's pretty good with that stuff. Not influencing from Jacksonville. Shout out to Jacksonville, Florida. Bigger city than a lot of people think. Shout out to Jacksonville Beach. Nice place. Manson, North Carolina. Kuya Bin Yasharal. Sarah Gonzalez from Austin, Texas. Good morning. Bravo Girl from Kansas City, Missouri. Shout out to Middle America. Fort Baptiste, Port-au-Prince, Heidi in the building. Linda Gale, 1935, St. Louis. Leather and Pearls, thank you for the fest gear. I got the window open because I like having this air, but as long as it's not too loud, we'll keep the window open. Leather and Pearls, you lit up the gift gallery. Thank you. 003 Samson, good morning. Ron Johnson, Lima, Ohio. Brenda Hey You said, lock him up. Lock who up? Who's him? Christian, good morning. Wifey Tips, thank you for the Go Popular. Christy, 1966, said the stand will be a good Christmas gift from your wife. No, a good Christmas gift is actually, I'm probably going to get a new phone. I'm still on like the iPhone. I'm like 4 iPhones behind. The next step is just getting a new phone, and then I'll get a new stand. The stand should cost $4 on Amazon. That's not the problem. SWK's mom, rural Kansas, closer to Amarillo than to Wichita. Okay, shout out to rural Kansas. I've actually been to rural Kansas, believe it or not. I don't know what part. Jewel0309, good morning from Miami. Shout out to Miami, of course. Wifey Tips said, love the idea of Trump accounts for the kids starting in July. What's a Trump account? What does that mean? Jake Lancaster checking in from Iowa. Shout out to Middle America. Leonard Welding from Arizona. Shout out to Arizona. Beautiful place. A little bit too dry for me, but beautiful. Brenda Hey You from Maryland, Washington, D.C. area. Shout out to the DMV. Stuart Winslow from Spartanburg, South Carolina. Gary Sherman from Northeast Philadelphia. Shout out to my grandma. My grandma lives in Northeast Philadelphia. Shout out to the Northeast. One Can Two Junior Juan said, loving the clean suit. Good morning from Houston. Thank you, Juan. Mesa, Arizona. Samson Echo said, is made up. It's freezing here, so I'll call it Viking Land. Oh, okay. All right. I know I never heard of Viking Land, Pennsylvania, so I'm glad you made that up. Bunny from Tuel, Utah. Definitely never heard of that. Happiness Now said Hottie Toddy is a chant for Ole Miss. I did not know that. Okay. Shout out to Ole Miss. I've never been to Mississippi, actually. I think I've driven through it, but I never actually stopped and did anything in Mississippi. So shout out to Mississippi. Hottie Toddy, go Ole Miss and cheers. Okay. Learned something new today. Sherry, 1967 from Michigan. Kelvin Chung from New York City. Shout out to New York City. What was I just watching the other day? Oh, yeah, I was just listening to that Diddy documentary that 50 Cent put out on Netflix. Didn't have a whole lot of new information, but it was interesting still. Shout out to New York City. Wifey Tips, thank you for the fest cheers. Rasheem Tony from Findlay, Ohio. Sarah Gonzalez said, me too about the phone. Yeah, I'm on like the iPhone 13, so I've got to get a new phone. Rick Thomas, good morning. My phone is starting to get just a little bit slow that I'm noticing, so now I know it's time to get a new phone. Rick Thomas, good morning. PM Mad Mom from Iowa. Black Girl Kimchi, good morning. Dana Marie, good morning. Southwest Michigan. Bryn, good morning. Black Girl Kimchi, Connecticut. Rick Thomas, Bradenton, Florida. Shout out to Tampa Bay. Carl, Indiana, good morning. Good to see you. Quail Ridge, Lincoln, California, good morning. Misi, good morning from Quad Cities, Illinois. Gogo from Natshells, Mississippi. Marky Man from Sacramento. Black Girl from Cold, Connecticut. I'm sure it's cold. Coach B, good morning, West Virginia. Ashley Mack said, we're going to make you a college football fan if it kills us. I like college football. I just didn't know that they called it Hottie Toddy at Ole Miss. I heard of Ole Miss. Y'all just lost your coach. I know what's happening in the sports world. I just didn't know that they called it Hottie Toddy and Ole Miss. That I did not know. Kim, good morning from Ohio. Just Me, good morning from Arizona. Black Girl Kimchi, thanks for the follow. Wifey Tip said, kids with under 18 with SSN receive 1,000 Trump account. Invested in S&P 500 can't withdraw till 18. Is that a real thing? And when does that start? I didn't know that was a thing. You're under 18, you get a $1,000 Trump account. It goes into the S&P 500, and you can't withdraw until 18. That's a great idea. Who came up with that idea? We got to give credit to Donald Trump for that one. It's a great idea if it's real. And when does it start? And when does the money go out? Because my kids should be getting that money. And Mo5 said, hope the morning goes smoothly. I think the morning will go amazingly. Scott Young, good morning. Feather said, good morning from South Florida. Shout out to South Florida. Shout out to Miami. That's where I'm at. Leather and Pearl said it starts July 4th of next year. Okay, I did not know about this. That is news to me. Sarah L said he said something about this yesterday. You're talking about Trump? And Lisa said only newborns get the 1,000, meaning you got to be born after the 4th of July of next year. Is that what you're saying? Wife said, announced yesterday the Dell family donated $6.3 million. Oh, I heard about the Dell family thing. Is that what you're talking about? The Trump account is the Dell family thing? I did see that. I saw that video with Michael Dell and his wife, who looks like, is that his wife? The woman in the video? Looks like she did a little bit too much with the plastic surgery. No disrespect to Michael Dell, but that's just my personal observation. Looks like he did a little bit too much at the doctor. But anyway, that's the same thing. I did hear about that. I didn't know it only goes to newborns, which means you had to be born after a certain date. And that's messed up. What they should do is give it to every kid under 18, and then at 18 you get to access it. That's what they should do. But what do I know? Bravo Girl said, I think you had to be born between 2025 and 28 to qualify for the Trump account. Okay, well, it's a certain amount of money, so I guess it makes sense. I guess that means I got to have another kid. Nancy Myers, thank you for the follow. Nana says she looked wild. Yeah, she did a little bit too much. Wifey said that's his wife. The Dell family started the Trump account. So they called it the Trump account. Why don't they call it the Dell account? I mean, since they're the one giving the money. Dell will give 1,000 every kid born after July of 2026. Okay, I gotta let interested parties know about this. That a kid has to come after July of 2026 for us to get the money. Black girl kimchi, coward girl kimchi, orca kimchi. All right, great. So the topic here today is the drone strike that came from. Let's just call it Donald Trump. We'll give Donald Trump credit because people want to find a reason or excuse to bash Donald Trump. So let's just give it to him right up front. That the latest wave of debate around the Trump administration's drone strike campaign. The drone strike campaign from the Trump administration is getting bashed right now because what happened is, let me set my timer here. Actually, I don't need to set the timer. We can use this. There we go. So this comes not from news strikes in the past 72 hours, but a legal fallout after a Washington Post investigation exposed something that happened in September. So this allegedly happened back in September. I thought it happened last week, but it actually happened in early September, what they call a double tap attack. Any of you never heard of a double tap attack? What it means is it is when they go around and they shoot at a Venezuelan narco trafficking vessel, at least what the Department of War is calling it, a Venezuelan narco trafficking vessel. They did an initial strike on it, and the administration has conducted 19 strikes since early September. So September, October, November, in 3 months, 90 days, they've done 19 strikes. And they've killed at least 76 people and destroyed 20 vessels. Vessels meaning boats in the water that the United States has reasonable belief that these people are trafficking narcotics. So they go in and shoot the boats down. Rather than arresting them or waiting for them to land, they just shoot the boats down. 20 vessels have been shot down, killing 76 people. The story has now shifted to whether this campaign is even lawful. Are you allowed to even do this? Whether the cartels can be targeted as terrorists, and whether senior officials, including Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, have they issued explicit kill everyone directives that could expose the U.S. to war crime allegations. So first things first. We talk about this whole war crime thing that people like to throw out there about the Trump administration. I have only heard people talking about war crimes ever since the Trump administration, this second carnation of the Trump administration has come to exist. I didn't hear anybody mentioning war crimes during the Biden administration or during the Obama administration, but all of a sudden everybody's interested in war crimes and everybody cares about making sure war crimes are not allowed to happen, which is interesting to me. But I digress. I actually mentioned that a little bit yesterday. people are wondering whether you can target the cartels like terrorists. First of all, I can answer that question. The answer is yes, you can. Why? Because our current sitting president has labeled the cartels terrorist organizations. Did that happen? Did that happen? Give me a yes or a no. If any of you have heard our current president label the cartels terrorist organizations? Because I know I have. I've heard Donald Trump say that the cartels are terrorist organizations. I don't know if there's an official, documentation he needs to put out in order to make it that way, but he absolutely has done that. So if he labeled them terrorist organizations, then that means by his word, we can do whatever we want to the cartels and we can shoot them down. They can be targeted because they target us, so we're going to target them. And whether senior officials, again, Secretary of Defense / War Pete Hegseth, did they issue an explicit kill everyone directive that could expose the U.S. to war crime allegations? Now, I've heard Pete Hegseth say that he did not do that, whereas there is hearsay that he did do it. So we have a he say, she say thing. And we know how this goes with the Trump administration. If it's he say, she say, people who like Trump are going to say, well, he said he didn't say it. And then the people who don't like Trump are going to say that he did say it. And do we ever solve this issue? No, we don't. So that's where we're at with that. We don't need to process that any further because we know that's all it's going to come down to. Now, no new strikes occurred last week, but the Venezuelan National Assembly, Venezuela did this. They opened an inquiry on December 1st, 2 days ago, and Congress is now debating whether these maritime operations violate the War Powers Act. Okay, so let's just pause right there. So the Venezuelan National Assembly, whatever that is, let's just say that there's some people in Venezuela who are part of the government. Let's just say that's who it is. I really don't give a damn who they are. They opened an inquiry on December 1st, meaning we want to look into this boat that you all, the Americans, shot down. First of all, why are people from Venezuela, what they need to be open an inquiry on? Actually, it doesn't say exactly what they inquired about, so let me not assume. What they need to be inquiring is why is there a boat coming from Venezuela speeding across open waters, international waters, towards the United States instead of going through the proper channels of entering our country's controlled area? That's what they should be inquiring about. Now, I don't know if that's what they're inquiring about or if it's not, but that's what they should be inquiring about. And Congress is now debating, meaning the Democrats in Congress, they're debating whether these maritime operations violate the War Powers Act. I say, does it really matter? I don't think it matters. The reason why I don't think it matters is because who is going to do anything about it if we are violating the War Powers Act? Is Congress going to do anything to the Secretary of Defense? Is Congress going to do anything to the president? My answers to those two questions are no and no. But the administration right now frames this program as a bold counter-narcotics initiative, protecting Americans from the trafficking of certain narcotics that we want to keep out of the streets, especially the one that starts with the letter F that I'm not going to say because it may be restricted on TikTok. So let's find out what this War Powers Act is. And we want to find out about this Venezuelan inquiry that allegedly happened the other day. So first of all, tell me what is the inquiry that got opened by the Venezuelan National Assembly on December 1st? And then tell me what is the War Powers Act and why Congress may be debating about it right now and if the current administration has possibly violated this act. So I'm talking to Grok right now, which is actually pretty fast. ChatGPT is pretty slow with current events, but Grok is actually super fast if you put it on the fast mode. So Venezuelan National Assembly, led by their president, his name is Jorge Rodriguez, they announced a formation of a special parliamentary commission to investigate U.S. military strikes on suspected trafficking boats in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific Ocean. Strikes were initiated by the Trump administration. They resulted in at least 83 deaths, including some Venezuelan nationals. And so Rodriguez stated that the probe would involve Venezuela's Attorney General's office to support affected families who reportedly face threats and accused the USA of activating investigations only after media coverage from outlets like CNN and the Washington Post. They want to formally debate. Session to formally debate the commission was suspended and rescheduled for December 2nd, yesterday, amid escalating tensions, including U.S. airspace restrictions over southern Venezuela and Trump's social media posts declaring Venezuelan airspace closed in its entirety. So Donald Trump is basically strong-arming Venezuela and saying, don't send anybody out of your country into our country. And Donald Trump has the power to do that because if Venezuela doesn't like it, again, what the hell are they going to do about it? The answer is not going to do a damn thing because they don't have the power to do a damn thing. Now, the War Powers, that's the inquiry. All right, so everybody clear on that. The War Powers Resolution, also known as commonly called the War Powers Act. This was enacted in November of 1973 when President Nixon vetoed it, but it then got passed anyway because Congress overruled him. It's a federal law designed to limit the president's ability to unilaterally commit armed forces to armed conflicts without congressional consent, addressing concerns that came up during the Vietnam War about executive overreach. It reaffirms Congress's constitutional authority under Article 1, Section 8 to declare war, while recognizing the president's role as commander-in-chief under Article 2. So they have to consult Congress in every possible instance before introducing armed forces into hostilities or situations where imminent involvement is indicated. Within 48 hours of deploying forces into hostilities, the president must submit a written report to Congress detailing what happened and why. Unauthorized hostilities cannot exceed 60 days, after which forces must be removed unless Congress authorizes continued action via declaration of war. And Congress can direct withdrawal at any time via concurrent resolution, which is not subject to presidential veto. In other words, if I was to break down these four pieces, anytime the president is going to send U.S. forces into hostilities, he has to get consultation. He has to consult Congress in every possible instance. He cannot go and do things unilaterally without talking to Congress. Number one, if they're forced into hostilities. So this language is kind of tricky. Now, if you're just shooting down a boat, is that really a hostility? That's the tricky language here. Secondly, is that within 48 hours of deploying forces, the president must submit a written report to Congress. I don't know if he's doing that or not. Then there's a time limit that unauthorized hostilities cannot exceed 60 days, which this is kind of confusing language. Unauthorized hostilities. So that means the president can do whatever they want, but they can't do it for more than 60 days. I don't know. I'm not going to go into the details of this. And then Congress can direct withdrawal at any time. In other words, Congress can overrule the president and say we have to get out of that conflict, even if the president wants to stay in the conflict, according to the Constitution and according to this law, rather. Now, this does not apply to actions repelling sudden attacks or in self-defense. So if Donald Trump and the Secretary of Defense say that this is just defense and this is a sudden attack by these narcotics traffickers, this law does not apply at all. So that's why what do they call it? War Powers Act doesn't really apply because the president can just say, hey, this is self-defense. And boom, that's it. It supersedes everything I just told you. Now, Congress is debating this right now, and you have a few senators talking about it. War Powers resolutions to curb the administration's military actions against these trafficking operations because they feel it may escalate into broader conflict. I say, so what if it escalates into broader conflict with who? Venezuela? Are we afraid of broader conflict with Venezuela? I don't think so. Now, on December 2nd, yesterday, Tim Kaine, he's from Virginia, Democrat, Rand Paul, Republican from Kentucky, joined by Jim McGovern, he's a Democrat from Massachusetts, and Joaquin Castro, Democrat from Texas, and Thomas Massie, another Republican from Kentucky. They announced plans to file a resolution forcing congressional vote to block U.S. forces from further hostilities in or against Venezuela without authorization. This follows a failed attempt. They tried this in November and it didn't work. The Senate basically blocked it. And you got a couple of Republicans on this. And they're trying to stop the Trump administration from being able to do this again without having to go through Congress. In other words, Congress is saying, you need to get our approval before doing this. And they're trying to pass a resolution that forces Donald Trump to have to go through Congress to do what he wants to do. Now, in the House of Representatives, a bipartisan resolution directs termination of unauthorized actions against Venezuela or newly designated terrorist groups like this Cartel de los Soles, citing the strikes as hostilities under the law. Okay, yes, shooting down a boat and killing people is a hostility, but sometimes that's necessary. War protects peace. Now, broader context, Trump has authorized some other strikes, and there are some strikes that occurred without congressional approval. So long story short here, if I was to summarize all of this, Congress is making a bunch of noise that Donald Trump is doing stuff without getting the approval of Congress, and people in Congress are kind of annoyed that they are being completely ignored as Donald Trump does what he wants to do without going through them. And they're saying, hey, we have a system of checks and balances. You're supposed to go through us before you do stuff. And Donald Trump is basically saying, fuck you, I'm going to do what I want to do. And there's a big argument between the two groups. Well, one group is arguing Donald Trump is pretty much ignoring them for now, but he may not be able to ignore them forever. That's If I were to summarize it in my own words, that's pretty much what's happening. And let me introduce myself, then we'll get more into the details of this conversation here today. For those who do not know me and those of you who do, but maybe you forgot, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year pro athlete, author of a few books. I've done a few TEDx talks and run this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. Our job here is to help you take the tools that help athletes get to the top of their game and help you get to the top of your game, whether you're in the business world, in your personal life, your communication skills, your leadership skills, your aura, your energy, your sales, your marketing, anything in between when it comes to anything that involves business or your personal life. How do you use the same tools that athletes use to get to the top of their game and get to the top of your game? Our main focus right now is the Power Presence Protocol, which is all about mastering the 85% of communication that is nonverbal. That is the energy that people pick up about you and the story they craft in their head about you before you get a chance to open your mouth, and the story that they keep in their head after you walk away, even if they never spoke to you. We call that imprinting. How do you master that? Those of you who are in leadership, those of you who are in jobs that may be remote, those of you who want to get better at dealing with human beings on whatever level, the Power Presence is for you. We have a mastermind for this where you get coached directly by me in the process. Go to the link in my profile. You can learn more about that. Now, supporters of this Trump situation, this strike situation, it's not even a Trump situation, but we'll put it on Trump because Trump's name draws attention. They say the absence of the new strike since November shows discipline rather than retreat, reinforcing that the program is intelligence-driven rather than reckless. So some people are trying to frame that the Trump administration is just recklessly shooting down boats just because they feel like it. I don't think that's the case. And worst case scenario for the government, if they were to not shoot down these boats and the narcotics made it into the country, is not going to get to the White House. It's going to get to everyday citizens. So I don't think they're recklessly doing it. I think they got the intelligence that says, this is what's happening. These are who these people are, and this is what they're bringing into our country. We're going to stop them before they get here. I don't have a problem with this. I don't have a problem with this because if they believe that that's what's happening, that these people are just bringing narcotics in and they're not entering the country through the proper channels, you're trying to illegally enter our country and then on top of that, do something illegal with a substance that is illegal. So that's 3 illegalities all at the same time. Yeah, we're going to shoot you down, especially if the thing that you're doing, adding on to this, the thing that you're bringing in is going to end other people's lives because they're going to be taking this narcotic, then that gives us a reasonable reason to shoot you down. All 4 of those put together. Illegally entering our country, bringing in an illegal substance, then you plan on doing something illegal with the substance, such as selling it or distributing it, and anybody who takes it might end up losing their life. Those 4 together is enough for me to just shoot you down and eliminate you and your life before you get a chance to start. I'm all right with that. I don't have a problem with the government doing this if that's what their intelligence is telling them. Now, we have to trust their intelligence. Now, some say, well, how do we know we can trust their intelligence? Well, you don't actually know. You don't know, but you know. Candace Owens language. The reason why we trust it is because we voted for the president. There was an election last year. Some of you may remember. There was Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. America, as a country, chose Donald Trump. Donald Trump, as president, appointed Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth, as the Secretary of Defense, is the one who is making this call. And the Secretary of Defense and their office said, this is what we're going to do. We as American citizens have to trust the judgment of this person because we chose this person. That is my framework for how I make this decision about what we do. That's my framework for why I say this is okay. So this allows the administration to argue it only hits confirmed narco targets. It is not indiscriminately just shooting people down. That this is a confirmed narco target, and that's why they did it. I have yet to hear, of all the critics of Trump and what he's doing, I've yet to hear anybody say that they shot down a boat and they found out that that boat was not narcotics and that those were not traffickers. Nobody said that yet. Has anybody heard anybody say that? I haven't heard that. I've not heard a single person say that they shot down a boat and ended up being the wrong boat. There weren't narcotics on the boat and those weren't traffickers. So every boat they shot down, they were right. There were narcotics on the boat and those people were trafficking. So what's the problem? The problem is Donald Trump. And because it's Donald Trump, people who don't like Donald Trump are going to try to find ways to make it seem like he's doing something wrong. You even have some Republicans doing this. All right, that's the way it's going. So critics argue that this pause reflects political panic after the Washington Post revealed the September 2nd double tap. I'm not so sure about that. They say it hasn't been a strike since November 29th. Today's December 3rd. So it's 30 days in November. So let's say the 30th, the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd. So really, they haven't shot down a boat in 4 days. Does that mean that they're panicking? I don't know about that. That seems like a little bit of a reach. Y'all tell me what you think. 4 days, now they're panicking. That they say after the Washington Post put out this story, it suggests that the administration knows that legal exposure is real. I think they knew legal exposure was real the first time they shot down a boat. You shoot down a boat and kill people, I think you know legal exposure is real. I don't. I think this is a reach. 3 months later, they're coming out with this. The report triggered bipartisan calls for hearings and received questions about Hegseth's verbal "kill everybody" directive. They claim that that's what Pete Hegseth said. I heard Pete Hegseth say that he did not say that. So again, this is a he said, she said thing, or he said. How do you prove that this actually happened? And if you claim that it happened, you got to prove it. No one has this. There's just somebody saying that somebody said it, and then you can put that in a newspaper and say sources told you, and now it's a news story that you made up, possibly made up out of nowhere, until or unless you can prove it. Now they say that this report triggered bipartisan calls for hearings. That's true. It did. There are bipartisan calls for hearings now after this happened, because now you got people in Congress saying, hey, the reason that we exist is to work as a system of checks and balances for the White House. And here's the executive branch, that's the White House and President Trump, doing something without our okay. Well, what the hell are we here for? I'm calling for them to have to go through us in order for things to happen. We got to have hearings, and they got to explain to us why they're doing what they're doing. I would predict in the next 60 days, Pete Hegseth is going to get dragged before Congress for another hearing where he's going to have to answer for this. And the Democrats are going to try to make it seem like he says something that he didn't say and that he's doing something wrong. The Republicans are going to go easier on him and make it seem like he's doing things right. And this whole dog and pony show shall continue that we know is the United States government. This is going to continue. Pete Hegseth is going to get called before Congress within the next, let's say, 90 days. He's getting called based on this. Because a bunch of people in Congress, they have to feel like they matter. They have to feel like they exist for a reason, and they're going to they're going to insert themselves into the story simply because if they don't insert themselves into the story, what the hell are they there for? That's a good enough reason. That's going to happen. Now, administration claims legality through Article 2 self-defense and a new FTO designation for Venezuelan cartels, equating them to terrorists eligible for lethal action, which I already explained. Donald Trump's already said that he's declaring certain cartels to be terrorist organizations. And if you're a terrorist organization and you come towards us, we have a right to take you out before you get a chance to do anything. So that's what the administration is going to point to. And there's no way that anyone going against this is going to be able to disprove that claim, because Donald Trump already made the assertion. These are terrorist organizations. Now, you may not like it. Some people in the government may disagree with it, but you can't say that he never said that. He already declared it. And under that declaration, they have a right to do what they did. They're justified in doing what they did. Now, again, you may not like that he did it, but there's no way they can say this is unlawful. They can never prove that this is unlawful, just based on that alone, just on simple logic. Now, what they're going to do, though, despite the fact that they probably know this, they're probably smart enough to understand what I just said. I think most of them are. They're going to try to make this into a story anyway. Why? Because they got to make sure that they matter. And you ever worked at a job where somebody inserts themselves into a situation that they don't need to be in just because they have a job there and they need to feel like they matter? Any of you ever had that happen? Put me if you ever had that happen. Somebody at a job just inserts themselves into a circumstance that they don't even need to be involved in, and they slow the whole shit down just because they got to make themselves feel important and feel like they are engaged, even though them staying out of it, the situation would go smoothly and be done faster, but they just got to get involved. So right now, that's Congress. Congress is that person right now. They're inserting themselves into this situation saying that, hey, we got to matter because we're Congress, even though nothing that they say or do in this situation is going to help anything. What are they trying to do? And Donald Trump's going to use this. He's going to say, well, look at these idiots in Congress. They're trying to slow us down from shooting down narcotics trafficking dealers coming out of other countries into our country, bringing in illegal stuff and trying to do illegal things. And it's going to kill our citizens. And look at these idiots in Congress. They're trying to help them. Donald Trump is going to do this. If he hasn't done it already, he'll do it. And he will do it again and again and again, because that's essentially what they're doing. They're trying to make themselves important. They're trying to make themselves matter in a situation in which they could just stay out of it and everything would be going fine. Because again, had they shot down anyone that wasn't a trafficker or wasn't a narcotics boat, it hasn't been shown that they have. So the November 24th designation by Secretary Marco Rubio, we know him. He gives the DOJ, Department of Justice, DOD, Department of Defense, a legal hook mimicking post 9/11 authorities, which I already explained. They already said that these are terrorists. Okay, we can shoot down terrorists. Done. Case closed. Now, there's going to be arguments about it, but the case is closed. Now, opponents counter that this designation doesn't automatically create an armed conflict framework. So they call it FTO. So let's find out what this FTO is. In the context of these shooting down of Venezuelan boats, what is FTO designation? What does that mean? So let's find out what FTO is. FTO is Foreign Terrorist Organizations. Okay, that's what FTO stands for. Foreign Terrorist Organizations. That's the only part that I needed. Okay, so opponents say that this Foreign Terrorist Organization designation, this is people in Congress, they say this does not automatically create an armed conflict framework, meaning human rights laws still prohibit peacetime extrajudicial killings. I say rubbish. This is nonsense. The reason why I say it's nonsense is because these people, as I already explained, they're bringing narcotics in that they are coming into our country illegally, number one. They're bringing in narcotics that are already illegal, number two. In order to get them to people, they had to distribute them, which is also illegal, number three. And these narcotics, it's not like they're bringing in the green plant that people like to smoke. They're bringing in something that can take you out with one shot. That drug that starts with the letter F that I don't want to say on here because, again, I don't know what TikTok's restrictions are on that, mentioning that narcotic. So they're doing four things wrong, all illegal at the same time. And one is going to be deadly to our citizens. Not like they're coming in and taking the narcotic themselves. They're giving it to other people. I say that's a good enough reason. And people who are opponents, they're not opponents of this. What they're opponents of is Donald Trump. And they're using these other things as a pretext. We just want to go against Donald Trump, even though what they're going against sounds, again, kind of silly. This just sounds silly to me. Now, UN experts already called the strikes extrajudicial executions. They said this in an October 21st statement. This is UN experts, United Nations experts. I say, who the hell cares what a UN expert has to say? I don't care. If I'm the president of the United States of America, I'm not waiting for Congress to tell me what I can do and what I can't do in this context. I don't give a damn what the UN has to say. I don't care what my opponents have to say. There's a terrorist organization. I told the American people that we are going to stop other countries from sending their worst people into our land to do bad things to our people. This is a prime example of it. We're going to shoot them down. And who's going to stop me? What I like about Donald Trump's approach, other presidents use this approach as well. They just do it more covertly. Donald Trump is doing it overtly. He's doing it right in your face and let you know about it. Other presidents do it quietly. He's doing what he wants to do, and he's daring the checks and balances system to stop him. That's what Donald Trump does. Now, he does it openly so that you can see it. Joe Biden did it too. He just did it quietly. Barack Obama did it. George W. Bush did it. They just did it quietly. They did it in a more diplomatic way. Donald Trump's doing it in a brash and open way. That's the only difference, but they all do it. And the reason why people are mad, Congress is making so much noise about this, is because of what I just explained. Because Donald Trump does it so openly, that's the reason why they have a problem with it. They don't have a problem with what he's actually doing. And again, when you put what he's doing into context, they look silly fighting against this. But when people's TDS is high enough, they will do something to look silly because the emotions of TDS overpower the logic of how you look trying to stop him from doing this for the reason that he's doing it. Now, supporters say that the crisis of this narcotic that starts with the letter F and ends with the letter L. Y'all know what narcotic I'm talking about? This is one that, from what I've heard, people can lose their lives by taking this thing one time. So supporters say that the crisis of this thing, 300,000 annual deaths from this narcotic. I gotta be careful what words I use here. 300,000 deaths annually from this narcotic alone. They say destroying cartel boats before they reach the hemisphere saves lives. I agree. Take care of the boats. Get rid of the people who are bringing it along. Before it gets to America, this is saving lives preemptively. And the problem that people have is that the Department of Defense is shooting down these boats before these people have had a chance to actually do the illegal thing. So this is a preemptive thing that we're doing. That's the problem that people have. Now, had they come in and start doing stuff and then we got them, then it wouldn't be so bad, I guess, in the eyes of some of the opponents of what's happening. But doing it preemptively, I say is okay because for the reasons that I already gave, the 4 reasons, illegal entering, doing something illegal, selling an illegal product, and people are going to die from it. On top of the fact that Donald Trump has made it really clear and very vocally made it clear that we're looking at you as a terrorist organization because of what you're doing. We're looking at what you're doing as an act of terror, domestic terror, because of what you're doing and what you're bringing into our country. And if you try to do this, we're going to shoot you now. I want to know who in Venezuela, after the first, how many strikes did I say there have been? I'm looking back to my notes. They said that there have been 19 strikes since early September. So this is what I'm trying to figure out. The people who live in Venezuela, the cartel members, after strike number like 5 or 6, if you're on the 7th boat, they get struck down. So 20 vessels got struck down. Let's say you're on boat number 7. All right, the first 6 got struck down, or maybe 6 got struck down. Maybe some of them made it through. We didn't catch them. 6 boats have gotten struck down. And you know, you live in Venezuela, you're a member of the cartel. You know that 6 previous times a boat had went out with narcotics with some of your fellow traffickers. The boat got shot down and they got killed and the narcotics got destroyed. You know that's happened 6 times already. And now you're being told to get on boat number 7. Why would you get on that boat? That's a question I have for the audience. Why would you get on that boat? You know what happened to the last 6 boats. You going to get on that boat? Are you on a suicide mission? What are you doing? You just don't want to live anymore? Why would you get on that boat? Now, again, I'm assuming maybe some boats made it through and the U.S. didn't catch it. So maybe they're just trying their luck. Or maybe if you're a member of the cartel, you get told what to do. You kind of got to do it like the mafia. You got to do what you're told, even if you think you might be putting your own life at risk. I'm not getting on that boat. And they just keep sending boats. 20 vessels have been destroyed. So I want to know who decided after the 19th vessel got destroyed to send out vessel number 20. Who made that call? Now, at the same time, I understand. Now, let's say this is their business. This is a big part of their business. We got to get these narcotics to the USA. That's how we make our money. So if we don't get them over there, then we don't have any money and we have no reason for existing. So we got to risk our lives and give it a shot because otherwise, what are we doing? So I understand why somebody might want to do this, but thinking logically, and I'm thinking maybe people in cartels don't think as logically as I do. Why are you getting on that boat knowing what happened to the last 5, 6, 7, or 12 boats that went out into the waters trying to get to the USA? Doesn't seem like a smart idea to me. Seems like a bad bet. You might win, but you might lose. And if you lose, you don't get a chance to play again. I just don't think this is a good idea. So after these 20 vessels got shot down. So this is all due to crisis there. Now, critics say, actually, let me back up. Trump describes these cartels as narco-terrorists. That's what he's calling them. That's his justification for this. And their logistics pipelines justify preemptive action. In other words, the logistics pipelines are, if we allow these narcotics to make it to American land, they have a pipeline for getting that stuff distributed so easily that we can't catch them or stop them nearly as easily once they get here than if we catch them before they get here. That's Donald Trump's reasoning. The administration's reasoning is that we have a much better chance of stopping them ahead of time than waiting until they actually start doing stuff. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with this. Now, critics note, no evidence many of the boats carried a certain type of narcotic. That one that starts with the letter F. So NGOs are warning that fishermen may have been misidentified. I don't know about this one. Somebody had to show some evidence of this. Amnesty International claims that civilian deaths are likely undercounted and no narcotics payloads have been publicly verified. Okay, so they're saying, Amnesty International, that's an organization, they say that there may have been some civilian deaths that were undercounted. I say, probably. I don't think they're lying. I don't think they're wrong. They're probably right. And I'll tell you why this is justified still in a moment. So they say some civilian deaths may have happened and no payloads have been publicly verified. That doesn't mean they weren't there. They haven't been publicly verified. That doesn't mean it didn't exist. So when people say publicly verified, that doesn't mean, again, it doesn't exist. They're using the absence of information as proof of their argument, which, again, you got to be able to point these things out. Now, are these traffickers, these cartel traffickers, smart enough to maybe try to make their boats look like these are just somebody fishing or somebody who is a civilian on the boat, or the traffickers may be bringing the civilian on the boat as cover for what they're actually doing so that the boat doesn't get shot down. The civilian that gets brought on that boat, they should understand before they get on that boat that you are risking your life because you see what we're riding with. You know who we are. You know you're risking your life in doing this, right? You understand that, don't you? I think they understand that. And I say this is a casualty of war. And I say casualty of war, I mean that in a colloquial sense. Is this technically a war between the U.S. and Venezuela? Not really, because the U.S. and Venezuela probably would never go to war. What does Venezuela have to gain from that? Casualty of war means in the process of us taking care of the problem that some other things may happen, and that's just the cost. That's just the price of it. Everything in life has a trade-off. And I say, if I'm the president of the United States, and I truly believe that this narcotic making it to our shores is a serious problem that's going to hurt hundreds and thousands of people, again, 300,000 deaths a year from this narcotic that starts with the letter F, then if that means one or two fishermen or one or two civilians in the process of me taking out the traffickers have to lose their lives in what we're doing here, I say it's a casualty of war. That's the price that we got to pay to take care of this problem preemptively. That's the price we're paying. I'm willing to pay that price. That's what I say. Why? Because those civilians, whoever they are, they got forced to or they chose to get on that boat. You chose to get on that boat. You know what kind of boat you're getting on? That's the cost. I'm all right with this. Now, Pentagon allies say that the Reaper-based campaign is cost efficient compared to interdiction or raids. This is what I just told you. It's cost efficient. When I say cost, I don't necessarily mean money. Cost meaning this is the cost. So where some people are going to get taken out. Let's just say some civilians got taken out. Now, again, we don't have any verification that civilians got taken out. I'm saying if that was the case, I'm still okay with it. We don't know that that's even happened. Maybe it hasn't happened at all. If it did, I say this is okay. Now, what the allies at the Pentagon say, they say this is cost efficient compared to trying to catch these people later, is as trying to raid their boats, i.e., let's send our own boat. So let's say we see their boat coming over here. We send our own boat and try to intercept their boat and try to catch them, boat catching another boat. So hunting them down. I would think that these traffickers might have weapons. And we may lose some people in the process of trying to do that. So how about we just take them out with our drones where we can't lose at all and they lose. Only they lose. Again, I'll take this bet. It's like playing poker, folks. Is that sometimes when you play poker or you play blackjack, you play the odds based on what you know of the game. You just play the odds. If you play the odds properly, sometimes when you play the odds, you may still end up losing your hand even though you made the right call. You placed the right bet based on what you know and the strategies and the probabilities. You place the right bet and you still end up losing that hand. But overall, if you play 100 hands, you'll probably end up coming out on top for the most part. That's what America is saying here. They're not saying it in so many words, but that's what they're saying. We'll place this bet. I'll take this bet. The problem is when you're playing with lives and people actually dying, that it's hard to look at it this way in such a cold, dispassionate way, the way I'm describing it. See, this is the reason why I can't work in politics. See, if I was working in politics or in the Trump administration or even in Congress and I came out talking the way that I'm talking to you all right now, I would get destroyed in the press for saying something like this because it just sounds very dispassionate. It sounds very, where's your empathy? Non-empathetic for me to say something like this, that, hey, if some people got to die in the process of us solving this problem, where on balance, we're winning more than we're losing. And a lot of people just can't handle that because they want to play the emotional card. Now I understand. Nothing wrong with people playing the emotional card. It's just the emotional card is not going to work in this case, in this instance, with me. But again, this is the reason why I don't work. Emotional, damn it. This is the reason why I don't work in the government. Because if I came out in the government, even if I was working for the Trump administration and said this, notice Donald Trump hasn't even said this. Now he might say it, but emotional, damn it. There's a reason why this kind of stuff doesn't get said, and the reason why people like me don't work in the government. Now, continuing. They say this is cost efficient. It minimizes U.S. casualties while at the same time destroying the cartel capabilities. Exactly. Now, each one of these costs $150,000 to do the shooting. So when they shoot down these boats, it costs $150,000. Sounds like a lot of money to shoot down boats. If you want to get into some money, some place where there's always money being spent, I suggest that some of you maybe think about becoming a defense contractor because there's plenty of money to be spent on defense contracting. $150K for every one of these hellfires is what they call it when they shoot down a boat. But on the other side of it, here's the other side of it. Every year, the DEA, Drug Enforcement Association, or administration, and the Coast Guard, raiding and catching people and searching and arresting people. You know how much that costs? Billions with a B. Billions of dollars every year doing that once they get here. Catching them when they get here costs billions every year, as opposed to just shooting them down in the water costs $150,000 each time. So Americans, do you care about our national debt? Do you care about the $37 trillion in debt that we are? Do you care about the veterans who don't have health care? Do you care about kids not knowing where their next meal is coming from? Well, it'd be better if the government saved money by shooting down these boats rather than spending more money by getting them once they get here. Again, this is a cost benefit analysis here. I'll take the trade-off of taking out some people who might not need to be taken out because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Tough luck. Tough break for you. All right, people who are in the wrong place at the wrong time on the wrong boat. Now, legal scholars argue that cost efficiency does not justify bypassing Congress. I say it does. So here's a fundamental difference here. Some legal scholars say the cost efficiency of this is $150K a shot versus billions of dollars. It does not justify bypassing Congress. I say damn near anything you do can justify bypassing Congress. I'm okay with bypassing Congress as a general idea. Let's bypass Congress and just get done what needs to get done, because Congress slows things down. They had a whole bunch of red tape and bureaucracy to things. A lot of people in Congress are just opposing Donald Trump out of sheer perversity, not because they actually want to uphold the system of checks and balances. And they're just trying to make themselves important simply because they have an opportunity to do so. So I'm okay with bypassing Congress with that context understood. If you accept my context, you may not. Many say this is a War Powers Act violation. I already told you what the War Powers Act is. It is not a violation. The Senate already held a vote that got voted 51-48 requiring authorization, and it did not pass. They lost. So Pete Hegseth insists that they have acted within authority of the law, framing the September strike as eliminating an active threat at sea. Now, this shields the chain of command from direct blame and pushes responsibility back to operational commanders or to Congress to try to prove something. He said we acted within the law. They got to prove that he didn't. That's pretty much it. United States of America, the law is innocent until proven guilty. We know that's the way it works. Now, whistleblower descriptions or a follow-up strike on 2 crawling survivors raise potential war crime exposure. So what people are saying is that at one point, a boat got hit one time, and then somehow, some way, Pete Hegseth said this didn't happen. Whistleblowers say it did happen. They sent another strike at the remains of the boat and the people who were still alive after the strike, and it took those people out. So they say this is possible. This is a possible war crime by doing a follow-up strike, which you're not supposed to do. We don't know. So there is a rule called the LOAC. Let's find out what the LOAC is, because I don't know what that is. What is the LOAC in this context? The LOAC is the Law of Armed Conflict, also known as International Humanitarian Law, also known as IHL. It is a body of international law that regulates how military force may be used during an armed conflict with the twin goals of 1, protect civilians and persons no longer taking part, and 2, limit the means and methods of warfare to what is necessary to achieve legitimate military objectives. Well, these can be interpreted in many different ways. And as the administration who's in charge right now, the Trump administration and the Secretary of or Department of Defense or Department of War, they're trying to argue that the LOAC, the people against it are saying, the LOAC forbids killing people who are not involved in the conflict. And they say this is the clearest U.S. double tap allegation since the Obama era. Okay, what happened to Obama when the double tap happened, or there was an allegation on Obama during his administration? The answer is not a damn thing happened. So why all of a sudden is this a big news item? We know why it's a big news item, because it's Donald Trump. Now, backers argue that prior administrations, like Obama and Biden, they normalized maritime NCT drone strikes, creating precedent that the current team is following. This is 100% correct. Joe Biden and Barack Obama, as presidents, did drone strikes. Give me some examples of drone strikes done by Barack Obama's presidential and administration and Joe Biden's administration. I'm talking to Grok right now. And because I was just, Megyn Kelly was just talking about this the other day, the drone strikes that Obama did, and Biden did some as well. So Barack Obama expanded the U.S. drone program, especially in areas outside of active hostilities. Areas outside of active hostilities. This was expanded by Barack Obama in places such as Pakistan, Somalia, and Yemen. In 2010 alone, in Pakistan Just Pakistan in 2010 alone, Barack Obama's administration did 128 strikes. Did everybody notice? So they did one in Yemen. They took out 41 to 55 people. 22 of them were children. 14 of them were women. Then in Pakistan, 10 to 14 civilians taken out during a follow-up strike. That's what they call a double tap when you do it twice. Then in Yemen again, a deliberate killing of a U.S. citizen without a trial happened in Yemen. Then another one in Yemen. People got taken out while eating dinner. Obama called it unintentional, but never explained the targeting rationale. This comes straight from Barack Obama, folks. Then, at the Pakistan-Afghan border in 2015, a signature strike. Obama publicly apologized for this because 2 Western hostages, an American and an Italian, both got taken out by a drone. Then, in Somalia, Libya, and Yemen, more civilian deaths. The Bureau of Investigative Journalism estimated 800 to 1,200 total civilian deaths from Obama-era drone strikes across all theaters. Now, how many of you knew about this? Now, Joe Biden, there were Hellfire missiles that 7 children, 2 other adults hit. Biden acknowledged a drone strike in Syria, no casualties, civilian casualties. 3 civilian deaths in 2022 that happened in Somalia. A drone strike inside of Baghdad city limits killed 1 person and injured another. And we'll just leave it at that. So the whole point here, folks, is this ain't new. That's the point that I want y'all to understand. This is not new. So what the Trump administration is saying is that the previous administrations normalized doing this kind of stuff. And all the current administration is doing is following precedent. And if there's a precedent of other presidents doing this exact same thing, legally, there is not much Congress can do about this. They'll make noise, of course. But legally, there's not much they can do about this because it's already been shown that other presidents have done it. And if they want to make noise about this, they should have made the same noise about the others because Donald Trump hasn't done nearly as much as these other 2 did, especially Barack Obama. Barack Obama hugely expanded this process. Opponents say that Trump's campaign is fundamentally different because the cartels are not armed conflict adversaries like AQAP or Al-Shabaab. I say rubbish. This is another rubbish point. They say because they're not armed adversaries, then it's not the same thing. I disagree. I think they are armed adversaries based on what the president has already asserted. He's already asserted that these cartels are terrorists because of what they're doing and the downstream effects of their behaviors. Somebody called John Yoo, I don't know him. He warned that this blurs the line between crime and war. I say, so what? I think Donald Trump says the same thing. So what? This blurs the line between crime and war? Okay, let's call it a war. Venezuela, is that what y'all want? Y'all want a war? Okay. How you think that's going to go? So he wants to call it a war, and they want to say that this is a war because of what's happening. First of all, who's getting taken out? Who are these people? Why are they trying to enter our country this way that they're not supposed to? And what are they bringing with them? And we have reason to believe that it's coming from your country. So if Venezuela wants to open an inquiry, they need to open an inquiry onto what's leaving their country and coming into our country and why. And who's responsible for it? And why is Venezuela not doing anything to stop it? Those are the questions that should be asked. And I think this is what Donald Trump might tell Venezuela. Now, some national security analysts, they say preemptive interdiction at sea prevents cartel reinvestment, hinders trash national networks of criminals. And this is 100% correct. So destroying vessels in international waters avoids messy extradition or prosecution barriers, which we know extradition and prosecution barriers get put up real quick by people who don't like Donald Trump as soon as Donald Trump is showing that he's doing something to stop these things from happening. As soon as Donald Trump says, I'm sending Tom Homan and Kristi Noem to grab a bunch of people who are here without proper documentation, gather them up, hold them in, we're going to detain them, and then we're going to ship them out. All of a sudden, the Democrats care a whole lot about not letting these people get shipped out. Is this true? Have we seen this? Democrats get really excited about making sure certain people don't get shipped out just because Donald Trump wants to ship them out. So if we were to let these people get here to the country, what a bunch of Democrats are going to do is argue in favor of these people. Don't ship them out. Don't ship them out. Don't ship them out. You're not following proper due process. You're not giving people their rights. granted under the law when you're here in the United States, whether you're a citizen or not. And you're going to try to delay, maybe let this person be released. Now they're in the country. They came here with a certain intention, and now they're going to follow through on that intention because we left them here in the country because the Democrats want to go against Donald Trump, are just going to go against him out of sheer perversity no matter what he does. And that's, in the long run, helping the Democrats in their cause of Democrat versus Republican, their partisan politics. But is it helping the everyday citizen? The answer is, of course, it's not. So national security analysts say that doing this preemptively actually solves a whole lot of problems. It solves more problems than it creates. Now, does that mean it's a perfect solution? No, but there is no such thing as a perfect solution. There are only trade-offs. I will accept the trade-off of the Democrats being pissed off and people saying that this is preemptive and that these people haven't actually done anything bad yet you're taking them out. I will take the heat of that blowback in exchange for this outcome. I'm all right with that. And you know what the job of a leader is? The job of a leader is not to have all the right answers. The job of a leader is not to have everybody agree with you all the time. The job of the leader is to offer people disappointment in doses and at a level at which they can accept. That's one of the main keys to being a leader. Is that you offer people disappointment in doses, frequencies, and at levels at which they can tolerate and keep going. Now, you disappoint them too much and they can't tolerate it, too frequently, too much, too heavily, now they leave. But if you can give it to them in ways that they can accept, then you're okay. And that's what a president really has to do. That's the job of the president. Because when you're president, there's no decision you make that's going to please everybody. So it's making the decisions that you know are going to displease some people, but at a level at which they can tolerate and they can accept it. Which is why Donald Trump was chosen for the second time. Now, Venezuela's new special commission increases geopolitical risk because Maduro is calling the strikes a fabrication and threatening UN action. And again, what UN action? What the hell is the UN going to do? Because the UN doesn't matter without the United States involvement. The United States not involved in the UN ceases to matter. They have no relevance. So Foreign Affairs said this could trigger state-to-state disputes, unlike prior counterterrorism campaigns. And I say, okay, let's just say there is a state-to-state dispute. What is going to happen? That's my question. Let's say we have a state-to-state dispute between the United States and Venezuela. What's going to happen? What's Venezuela going to do? That's a serious question. What are they going to do? Anybody have an answer to this question? Because I don't know. I don't have an answer. You don't like what we did to a boat that came out of your country that we think was bringing narcotics. What are you going to do? So again, this doesn't even matter. The UN, they say the UN may threaten UN action. Again, who the hell is the UN without us? Without the United States of America, who's the United Nations? They're nobody. Nobody cares about the UN unless the U.S. is involved. If we get out of the UN, then anything the UN says matters not. Y'all remember that meeting that, what's my guy's name from Ukraine? Zelensky. So Trump meets with Putin in Alaska. And then like the next week, he meets with Zelensky. But Zelensky brought like leaders from like 7 different countries with him to the meeting. Putin came by himself. Zelensky brought 8 people with him. All right, that's the UN. It's the 8 people that got brought with them. All 8 of them had to come to the United States to meet with Donald Trump because they need America. America doesn't need them. We don't need them. They need us. And Donald Trump understands this very well. Donald Trump's a deal maker, remember. His whole thing is negotiating and closing deals. The art of the deal. The deal is UN. You matter because we say you matter. The deal is Venezuela. You exist because we let you exist. That's what it is. Again, you don't have to like it, but you can't say it's not true. All this said, folks, let's get into the commentary. I think I'm going to pass on the restroom break. Let's just get straight into the comments here today. I'm reading from oldest to newest when it comes to the comments, folks, so don't think that I'm skipping your comment on purpose. There's a couple comments on Instagram from I Am Panda said, are you fine with releasing the president of Honduras from prison even though he was under investigation at the beginning of Trump's term? I don't know anything about that, so I can't answer that question. I Am Panda said, doesn't mean that they were there either, does it? What are you referring to? I don't know what you're referring to. Then he says, I got to take you off. You're just annoying. You have no sense of reality. You live in an alternate reality, my friend. Good luck with your ideologies. All right. Well, thank you for the good luck wish. Now, getting over to TikTok. If you have a question or comment, go ahead and put it in the comments. I'm reading from the oldest to the newest. There's a lot of comments here today. Thank you for liking a lot, folks. Let's see if we can get to 200K today. We're at nearly 100 already. Progress said, I see what you're saying, but shouldn't we also create a world where selling narcotics isn't necessary? Well, sure, Progress Toucher, but I mean, where do you think we at? Sesame Street, Barney and Friends? I mean, we already passed that point. That point, we have already way past the point of narcotics being here. And I don't think narcotics are necessary. It's just that people want them. And if there's something that people want, there will be somebody who supplies it. That's the first law of economics, was the supply and demand. J. Rocker said, where's the evidence that the narcotics are on a destroyed boat? Well, the Department of Defense is not required to give you that evidence. So you're asking a legitimate question, and a legitimate answer is the Department of Defense doesn't answer to you. They only answer to American citizens during election season. During election season, you vote for the president. The president picks the people who run the Department of Defense. They get confirmed by Congress, and that's that. Whatever they decide to do from that point is what they decide to do. Marky Mark said, in the intelligent world, we call this naturalizing the treat before it reaches your shoreline. Yes, I like the way that sounds. Golden Age said, you think they have a choice? Who is they? Michael Mosby said, Maduro made the call. He is a narco leader. Okay, fair enough. Nathan Don said, that boat is probably not number 7, like you were saying, is number 307. Only 6 have shot. Yes, so you're right about that. I added that in. That I don't think the U.S. shot down every single boat. They just shot down the ones that they could catch. They probably tried to shoot down some others and they missed, or they just didn't see them. Progress said, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it our fault that Venezuelans sell narcotics? How the hell is it our fault? Our being the United States? How is it United States' fault that Venezuelans decide to sell narcotics? Americans sell narcotics. Lady Libdy said, they fish for survival. What's wrong with you? Well, again, are they fishing on the same type of boats that the narcotics come in on? And is intelligence mistaking a fisherman boat for a narcotics boat? I don't think so. So that sounds good, what you're saying there, Lady Liberty, but I got to give you a slice of strawberry cheesecake. I don't know that much about fishermen from Venezuela, nor do I know that much about narcotics from Venezuela, but I don't think the boats that the fishermen are on, the boats that narcotics are on, get confused by American intelligence systems. The type of drones we have, the type of cameras we have, the type of intelligence and information we have, I don't think the people working in the Department of Defense are looking at a boat that's a fisherman and mistaking it for a narcotics trafficker. Do you think that, Lady Liberty? Do you really think that? Really? Grandpa Brown Bear, thanks for the follow. Nora67 said, what a deterrent. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good deterrent that you saw the person who went before you get shot down and killed. That's a pretty good deterrent to stop you from doing it. Grabby Clothing said, the Democrats will use this as an excuse to impeach DJT if they gain control during the midterms. Well, they don't need an excuse to impeach him. They're going to impeach him no matter what. So even if this didn't happen, they're going to impeach Donald Trump. That's guaranteed to happen. He's getting impeached. That's not even a question. Jack Durham 38 said, government has equipment that can identify the things on the boat. Of course they can. So again, how is anybody, I don't think anybody's mistaking a fisherman for a narcotics trafficker. So I was just throwing that out there as a theory. And if it happened that they shot down some fishermen in the process, hey, tough break, Mr. Fisherman. Joe Byron said, are Democrats defending the narcotics scores now? Pretty much they are. What they're doing is going against Trump. And whatever they got to do to go against Trump, they'll do it. But he said, without losing any of our own people doing it. Yes, exactly. That's what makes it efficient. Keep on living for life said Trump apologists. Okay.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Terica Martin, good morning. Barbie 007, good morning. 0007. Cruz says, so let me understand. Uh-oh. Somebody starts a statement with the word so. Here we go. She said, you want narcotic smuggling to stop, but you don't want us to stop it. Well, you get a straw man for that because that's not what I said.
Strawberry cheesecake.
I actually never said that I wanted the smuggling to stop. I do, but I never said that. And then you said, I don't want us to stop it. And I absolutely didn't say that. What are you listening to, Cruz? I got to give you something else.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
So you got a non sequitur. You didn't even catch what I said, and you're using a straw man here. So congratulations to you for the Angel Reese, or who else gets a double-double all the time? I give you the Tim Duncan Award for a double-double. 2 logical fallacies in 1 statement. Where he said, fishermen boats don't keep driving when you're warned. Yeah, I didn't think so. Brenda said, the killing of innocent people. No, that was a theory. I don't think they actually are because there's no proof that they have. No evidence, as people like to say these days. There's no evidence that an innocent person has gotten killed. None. Future Bomb said, more like Americans defending due process. MAGA wanting Trump to have ultimate power. No, it's not about him having ultimate power. In this specific instance, if you had to go through Congress to do something like this, well, by the time you go through Congress, the boat has already made it to America. And by the time Congress finally agrees to something, then a whole bunch of boats already came to America. A whole bunch of that narcotic that starts with the letter F has already gotten into our land, and a whole bunch of American citizens have already died from taking it. So all Congress is doing is slowing things down. So due process means slowing things down in the government. That's what it means. When you hear due process, it means things are going to happen more slowly. And sometimes that's good, but many times it's not. In situations like this, you need to make snap decisions and do it right now. Not, oh, I got to go through Congress before I do anything. And again, this is Congress making themselves important for no reason. Keep on living for life said, embarrassing that you just shrug off facts. Okay, so keep on living for life. I guess you want some strawberry cheesecake at 9:30 in the morning.
Strawberry cheesecake.
And you use embarrassing, so that's more of a
Emotional damage.
appeal to emotion. So shrug off facts. So first of all, there are a million facts out there. And as I've emphasized, I say this damn near every day, folks. Facts don't matter. It's not about facts, because for every fact that any one of you has on one side of a conversation, there are a bunch of facts on the other side that can counter that same fact. So what matters these days is not a fact versus another fact or accumulation of facts. What matters is your interpretation of facts. How do you interpret a fact and how do you explain a fact? Because you and I, keep on living, can look at the exact same set of facts and come up with completely different interpretations of those facts, and therefore completely different conclusions as to what happened, why it happened, and how we feel about it. So just because someone has a fact does not mean that the person who is not coming to the same conclusion is wrong or that they don't have the fact. It's just, how are we interpreting the fact? So keep on living. I think you come in here with similar comments in the past. I will challenge you to elevate your level of thinking and thus your level of discourse.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Future Bomb said, MAGA wants Trump to be our Putin, punish people without due process. This ain't Russia. I think that's a little bit of a reach. I'll give you
Is that like a personal attack or something?
I'll give you a little bit of ad hominem for that, because you're ad hominiming MAGA, and it's a strawberry cheesecake.
Strawberry cheesecake.
So congratulations to you for I give it the Dennis Rodman Award. He didn't always get 10 points, but he always got 10 rebounds. So congratulations to you for another double-double. CJ Gator said, for an administration that likes to brag is a bit sus. What do you mean? Jack Durham said a whale might have flown by the boat. Might have. Oh, well. What do you mean? I don't know what you mean by that. Collateral damage, yes. Pepper, Nathan, and Jack, I think that's what you meant to type. Golden A said, Trump has hurt hundreds of thousands of his citizens. How so? By doing what? Keep on living said, how will Donnie Jr. get his nose candy? All right, there you go.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Echo said, we are behind in taps this morning. We're at 112,000. Let's get to 200K, folks. Tap the screen, folks. 200K. AJV said, you're willing to pay that price as you're in a suit, safe in your own office. That is correct. And I speak it as an American citizen. I don't know where you are. Are you in a boat about to get shot? Are you firing the shot? Probably no and no. So you're in the same spot that I am. I'm willing to pay the price. I'm willing to pay the price in America of if we happen to take out a civilian by accident in the process of taking out these narcotics traffickers, I'm willing to pay that price. That's what I'm talking about when I say pay the price. I'm saying it as if I'm the administration, which I hope you understood. Tennessee Christie said, a couple of fishermen compared to millions of lives. Yes, exactly. That's the trade-off that we're talking about here. Everything in life has a trade-off, folks. If a couple of fishermen get taken out by accident in the process of us saving millions of lives from getting those narcotics onto our land, I say, fishermen, stay the hell out of that water. If you're a fisherman in Venezuela and you know that's where the strikes are happening, I would suggest you stay out of that water. That's just my advice. Golden A said, you think those citizens have a ICE when up against the cartel? That's why they come to America. Yes, you're right about that. Jasmine Carter said, I'm okay with following the law. Well, see, this is where people start getting into the facts versus interpretation. You're just talking about the fact of the law. Donald Trump is following the law. The administration is following the law. Congress says they're not following the law. That's why it comes down to interpretation, not black and white. So, Jasmine, what you're saying is you're okay with following the law. That means you could be supporting Trump. You could be supporting his opponents, either one of them, based on how each side is interpreting the facts of this situation. So what are you actually saying here? Because that statement that you just made is not really saying anything. Christopher Costa Rica says, satellites see all. Yes, that's what I've heard. Jasmine said, whatever the laws say is okay with me. Well, again, the law says one thing, but it can be interpreted in 30 different ways. Brenda Charles said, it's 2,000 miles from Caracas to Texas, the Mexico border. You really think a speed is doing it, or whatever it is? Again, I'm speaking colloquially. YG Widow says, So You're okay if some American fishermen lose their lives because another country has a feeling. She put a feeling in quotation marks. So first of all, this is a straw man.
Strawberry cheesecake.
For those who know what a straw man is, when you hear that strawberry cheesecake sound, straw man is the most common logical fallacy used when people disagree. Is when they repurpose your point into something that you didn't say, then they argue against the weak version of your argument, also known as the straw man version of your argument, and then they pose it back to you as if you need to respond to something that you didn't even say. So I just like pointing these out. So YG Widow said so. So is often a tell for the straw man. Someone starts a response to what you said with the word so, they're about to rephrase what you said into something different. And then she said, you're okay if some American fishermen lose their lives. First of all, I'm not talking about American fishermen. I'm talking about Venezuelan fishermen. I wasn't talking about Americans. And let's just say they were Americans. Lose their lives because another country has a feeling. First of all, America is not making our decisions based on feeling. We're making our decisions based on intelligence. Intelligence not being smart. Intelligence being information that we've already gathered and observations that we made of what's happening in open waters. So YG Widow, you get 2 slices of strawberry cheesecake for this nonsense.
Strawberry cheesecake.
And nobody's saying anything about a feeling, but you get a
Emotional, damn it.
appeal to emotion there. So 2 straw men and a appeal to emotion all at the same time. Congratulations, YG Widow, for the first Russell Westbrook triple-double.
Oh, baby, a triple. Oh, yeah.
Triple-double award of the day. Congratulations, YG Widow. Enjoy the strawberry cheesecake. Echo said, we're the tappers. Let's tap hard and fast. I agree. Jaslyn said, follow the laws while I believe laws are not made to be broken, period. Again, Jaslyn, you said that twice already. Christopher said 300,000 Americans dying from the F narcotic. That is true. Jaslyn said, what's the purpose of the law? Well, that's a wrong question, Jaslyn. So we give you this.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
The law's purpose is to provide a framework to be interpreted by judges and courts. I don't think that's what you meant by asking this question. Again, the law gets interpreted. That's the reason why we have a court system. Because if it was just about the black and white of the law, then ChatGPT could interpret the law. Feather215 said, is logic. What is logic? Nathan said, it sounds really truthful, which a lot of politicians don't believe in. Basically. Lisa said, I'm okay with 1,000 fishermen if it saves 5,000 Americans. That's a bit of a trade-off. I don't think 1,000 fishermen are going to get hit, though. Sean Allen said they need to follow the law. Again, all of you keep saying follow the law. Do you even understand why we have a court system? We have a court system because the law can be interpreted in more ways than one. So follow the law does not mean anything, folks. Please update your language. Future Bomb said, even you recognize that you're saying psycho. No, I don't think so. Golden Day said, probably not because Trump lacks empathy. No, I don't think Trump lacks empathy. I think people who don't like him frame him as lacking empathy because then it makes them look morally above him. PTU said, I guess they all forget that Biden took out innocent people in Afghanistan with a drone strike, and Obama took out a lot more and a bunch of other places. Echoes said, time for me to head out for work. Let's tap peeps, get to 100K. Well, we did it, Echoes. I appreciate you. King Casper said it's like a coupon. What are you referring to? Progress said, why does it cost more? What are you talking about? RCM said, preach common sense. Thank you. Christopher said, we took a huge ship fortress from Venezuela in 20 minutes, human slaves and narcotics. Great. Louis Castaway said, you're spot on. Thank you. Jasmine says, so we allegedly break the law to justify the law. Did I get that right? No, you have it completely wrong.
Strawberry cheesecake.
Toga New York said, the president tells them after that is what he has to do. Yes, I'm assuming he probably sends the document, but the document is probably so nondescript that it doesn't matter. It doesn't make news. Lisa Ann said, we are not bypassing Congress. Declared terrorists already, take them out. Yes, exactly, which is what I explained at the beginning of this. If he already called them terrorists, he doesn't need to go through Congress. Mel said, that is not international law. Mel, who gives a damn about international law? We make the rules. The United States of America makes the rules. We don't need to follow international law. If we want to break it, we break it. Who's going to hold us accountable? There's only 3 countries in the world that can really do anything to everybody. That's the country that starts with the letter C, is the country that starts with the letter R, and is us. That's it. So who the hell cares about international law? What are they going to do? Remember when Zelensky came here to get help on that conflict that they're in? He brought 8 other country leaders with him because he needs it. They ain't got no power. We got all the power. They need us. Jasmine said, where's the evidence that the boats were traffickers? Did you see the evidence? The Department of Defense does not need to provide evidence to the general public after it's already been chosen, Jasmine. You're asking the wrong questions.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Anastasia, thanks for the lightning bolts. Pamela Star Wider, thanks for the follow. SCT said the Democrats and Maduro work together. They try to tear down America. I've heard that. Marky Mark said, I've had the experience of witnessing the Hellfire, and I consider it a fascinating weapon system. You're probably right. I haven't seen it, but you're probably right. SCD said, what about Biden and the Democrats that took out Afghan family on... Yeah, exactly. Was why I listed those. Jasmine said, today's allegedly due process of the law looks like blowing up boats and survival. Is that right? Jasmine, come on.
Strawberry cheesecake.
How much strawberry cheesecake can you eat in one day? It's only 9:42 a.m. How much cheesecake can you eat today? RCM said, libtards won't have any standards if they didn't have double standards. Fair enough. Big Block said drone strikes are not the problem. The problem is killing survivors. I don't think that's the problem because it's alleged that they were killed in a double tap. And what are they? Who are they? Who are the people who survive? Because if the people who survive are narcotics traffickers, then I don't have a problem taking them out because of their intentions. Jasmine said, if President Obama had done all these things that has been done, it would be a different conversation. Well, Jasmine, you finally said something that is somewhat accurate, but you also have that wrong. That's a loaded statement. The reason why you have that wrong is because President Obama expanded the drone strikes and did a lot more drone strikes than Donald Trump has done so far. So the point you're trying to make is actually the opposite point.
Oh, I like your funny words, Magic Man.
Lisa Ann said, listen to all the Obama strikes, but Trump. Yes, Obama did more strikes than Donald Trump did. Obama deported more people than Donald Trump did. But because of how people feel about Donald Trump, what he does gets a lot more headlines and a bunch more negative press. Big Boss said, there's a difference between a missed strike and a purpose strike. Okay. And Willie Castaway, thanks for the follow. Retribution said, Trump is the GOAT. Okay. Jig said, these people are miles out at sea with no one around, and they are hanging on for life. Well, what were they doing? If we believe they were doing the wrong thing and trying to bring it into our country, they should be hanging on for life, and we should take the life from them that they're hanging on to. Karina, thanks for the GOAT. Retribution said, the current cabinet is the dream team. There's never been such transparency. Well, some say. Some say the opposite of that. Carl said 800 to 1,200 people. Yeah, that's what I read. Big Boss said, we are trying to deflect. It's not about the drone strikes. It is about the drone strikes. Big Boss says, is there any proof that any of these boats entered American waters? There doesn't have to be. All America has to say is that our intelligence deems that they're coming towards us, they're on our way to us, and we're going to take them out before they get close. They don't have to prove that. They don't even have to give evidence of it, and they don't have to share it with the general public. Because again, this is the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense is not required to share their intelligence or their strategies with the average American citizen. They don't have to tell you anything. The stuff we're talking about is the stuff that we know about. There's 99% of the stuff that they're doing we don't know anything about, and we never will. And they're not required to tell us. So some of you are asking, is there any proof or evidence, as if you need to be able to fact check what the Department of Defense does. That's not the way it works. And it never has been. Wifey Tip said 100% for protecting our country this way. Me too. CJ Gator said, not healthcare, but drone strikes. Well, technically it is healthcare. It's preemptive healthcare. So that we don't get people in our hospitals taking up beds because they overdose on a narcotic. We take out the narcotics deals before they get here. Not influencing say, y'all really think they're just blowing up random boats? Nobody thinks that, but people want to frame it that way by using logically fallacious tools to make it seem like that's possible because they don't have any proof that that's not what's happening. But again, the Department of Defense does not tell you or explain to you what they're doing. And I'm talking to everybody. To me either. K Nor said exactly. Hey, Jotty30, thanks for the follow. Carla said, I'm so sick of Democrats. Marky Man said, how many cartel members are on the Venezuelan security board? Who knows? CJ Gator said, if it was about violent illegals, not just randoms, who they think is illegal. Okay, fair enough. Christopher said, intention to kill people. Yes, it depends on why you're killing them. HBB said, I feel sorry for you. Don't feel sorry for me. I feel sorry for you.
Emotional, damn it.
New York Nick said, if your workers are all happy, you're not doing your job. I never heard it that way before, but I understand. Nora, thanks for the rose. Anastasia, thank you for the lightning bolt. Real Donald said, United States has veto power in the UN anyways. Yes, the United States can veto the entire existence of the UN. The UN doesn't matter unless the United States says it matters. Karina said, not a dang thing. Barbie said, Dre, I appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time to come on daily. Thank you. Big Bot said, unfortunately, it's going to be the lowly enlisted that's going to end up paying for this. What does that mean? Barbie said, the UN does not do anything. This is correct. They don't do anything. Step by step, said Uncle Tom. What did I get wrong? Step by step. Tell me what.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Tell me what I got wrong. Marky Man said, how much is the 20th boat captain getting paid? Well, they don't get paid anything until they come back. They got to complete the mission and come back. Then they get paid. Let's see. I almost caught up to the comments. Oh, I thought I almost caught up. I was wrong. No, I didn't almost catch it. No, I was wrong. Let's see. RCM said they're going to shoot down our aircraft with all their nuclear subs. Yeah, they ain't going to do a damn thing. Brett said we're a clearinghouse for other countries. Pretty much. That's what we are. Erica said, Mr. Live today. Going to watch on YouTube. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you, Erica. Hey, Jody said Department of Defense is definitely required to prove their actions. No, they're not. Not to the everyday citizen. Through the system of checks and balances, they had to put stuff out and document, but not to the everyday person. They don't have to tell you what they did, why they did it, how they did it, or how they got the information that led to their behavior. That is not that's not how the Department of Defense works. Markey said, the Democratic Party's leadership doesn't insults my and your intelligence, it insults our integrity. Diane said, Jay Hernandez of Honduras, convicted of trafficking, served days and was pardoned by Trump. Okay, I don't know that story, so I'm just reading what you said. Karina said, kills people, they just trying to survive. Birdie, good morning. Great looking tie. Thank you, Birdie. Thank you for the love you so much gift. TikTok most hated said the boats they had wasn't even equipped to reach our shoreline. I don't know that to be true, but let's just assume that is true. Well, damn sure ain't reaching the shoreline if it gets hit by a drone strike, I would think. Diane said, pay money for pardons is alive and well in his administration. Okay, I don't know how you know that, but okay. Scooter, thanks for the follow. Tori, thanks for the follow. Ranzor said, you can tell by the videos that have been released that they are all speed boats, not fishing boats. Yes, of course we know that. But of course, people are trying to make it seem like they're just randomly hitting boats out, just picking and choosing, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, just shooting down a boat. Karina said, I don't think he'll be impeached. He's always 20 steps ahead. Well, he got impeached twice. He was 20 steps ahead back then, wasn't he? He's going to get impeached. If the Democrats take control of Congress, Donald Trump will get impeached for a third time. That's a guarantee. He's not going to get removed, but he will get impeached. He got my lighter, said fishermen boat are much slower than narcotics boats. Yes, I know. But again, I'm responding to I'm putting out the ideas and arguments that some people who are against Trump are going to put out there. Earthly Colored Brown said, blessings family by way of Scottsdale, Arizona. Shout out to Scottsdale. Thank you, Earthly Color. Uncharted said, are they after Venezuela oil? Who's they? R. Philly said, this doesn't sound familiar to you, i.e., weapons of mass destruction. Well, it is not nearly the same thing because we're not going into their land. We went into a land looking for WMDs. We're not going anywhere here. We're seeing the boats and we're shooting them down. What do we get from shooting down a boat? Rick Thomas said, fishermen wouldn't run. Yeah, they can't run. New York Nick said, super speed boats are the best fishing boats. They are faster than the fish swim. Well, you still got to get the fish to bite on your bait, don't you? If you're using bait. Marky said, does anyone know if illegal narcotics prices are going up? Yeah, you're asking the wrong person. I don't know. Mike, thanks for the follow. New Year, thanks for the follow. Nora said, you're right. Democrats will fight to keep them in the country once they get here. Of course they will. And we already know that they'll do that. New York said, Trump did them a favor. The cartel would have tortured them if they were caught. Fast and easy death. Yeah, pretty much. Marky said, just an observation, but it's been my experience that Democrats are a fascinating species. Well, it's the same thing they say about Republicans. Pepper said, your soundboard is going to get a workout today. Yes, I like when he gets a workout. Kim said, liberals like to slice and dice the facts what they need to. Yes, and they get to slice and dice slices of strawberry cheesecake.
Strawberry cheesecake.
CJ Gator said, facts is just like reading the Bible. People come to 1,000 different results. Exactly. So when people talk about facts as if a fact means something is a case closed, black and white answer, it's not. It never is. Birdie, thanks to love you so much. New York Nick said, January 6th were not given due process, a fair trial, but no one complained, same as Obama deporting. I agree with that. Kim said, Hunter is the one with the nose candy and Zelensky. Well, Hunter has admitted to it. So, Barbie said, laughing at the Dennis Rodman Award. And see, Dennis Rodman usually didn't get the points. He always got the rebounds. Jay Bird said, they just say Donnie and Nose Candy at the Hunter's escapades. They will stoop to anything. That's true. You're correct about that.
Oh, I like your funny words, Magic Man.
Hunter Biden did a 3-hour interview explaining how he took the nose candy for years. And now they're trying to put it on Don Jr., which is ridiculous. Andy, thanks for the follow. RCM said she supports Trump. Who supports Trump? Marky Mark said fishermen don't fish with $250,000 speedboats with 5 speedboat engines. Right. RCM said, so you the man. I appreciate it. Karina says Americans care more about the Venezuelan cartel and regime than actual Venezuelans. This is true. Karina said Venezuelans welcome Trump's help. Yes, they do. Kim 8 said love Russell Westbrook. Yeah, that's a triple-double award. RCM said how did they get Draymond Green? Well, Draymond Green usually gets triple singles. He don't get triple doubles, so I don't have an award for Draymond Green. Tarika Marin said good morning. Love your breakdown today. Thank you. Freedom 1776. Thanks for the follow. Heather said Pete thinks he's above the law. I don't think so. Matthew said they aren't playing video games. Hey, Pete, get the guy's water skiing with the speedboat. Yeah, exactly. RCM, thanks for the follow. Carol Ann said, I live next to Venezuela, and the American is evil country, and the U.S. president is Satan. Okay, well, how do you really feel?
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Michael said, I'm new here. I'm loving your response. Keep it up. Thank you, Michael. And another thing said 2 lives versus 77,000 lives per year. 2 lives came to danger. Fishermen have equipment, none here. Comedic Ohio said, just makes sense to hit those narco boats. It's a great time to be alive. I agree. Luxury Home said, explain the phenomenon where anything Trump does, it seems to get automatic opposition from the Dems. We don't have to explain it. It's called Trump derangement syndrome. You heard of it. We don't have to explain it. I've done several episodes on my podcast explaining TDS, but all of you know what it is. Some of you have it. Ranzo said Reagan and Bush invaded Panama when they were arrested Noriega. I think you mean Noriega. Alberto Herrera, thanks for the follow. Ranzo said didn't get congressional approval. Correct. Stay knicker free. So I can't believe people are sticking up for the cartels. Unbelievable. They're not really. What they're sticking up for is going against Donald Trump. And if that means sticking up for the cartels in the process as a indirect thing, they'll do it. Jeanette said the U.S. can get away with it. It makes it okay. Well, the U.S. is not really getting away with it because who do they answer to? So you're not really getting away with it. You're just doing what you want to do. Matthew said, let's flip this a different president and crickets and justification. I agree. That is correct. Erica said, Jasmine's gotten all the sounds today. LOL. Well, she kind of said the same thing like 5 times. Comedic said, I don't know who you are, but I will vote for you. Well, thank you. Nana said, lots of emotionally damaged individuals in the chat. I don't think everybody's emotionally damaged. I think people feign emotional damage because they're going against Donald Trump and using that appeal to emotion works to pull on people's heartstrings. Nathan Don said, Jasmine is killing the sound machine. I love it. Yeah, she was. I don't think she's here anymore. K-Man Florida said, Dre all day. Good morning. E8 said, to your point about deportation, Joe Biden deported almost 200% more than Trump did his first term. Yes, and nobody gave a damn. Sacrilegious Creation said, war crime if on a hospital. Yeah, but we're talking about things that happen out in the open waters. E8 said, that being said, people still think Trump is better for immigration. Oh, well, Trump keeps fooling you guys. Well, okay, fair enough. I'll leave it at that. Shirley B, thanks for joining. Pepper said, they could be delivering a bomb. These people will be complaining that we took them. This is true. World Traveler, good morning from Reno, Nevada. Night Owl said, it's crazy to me how many Americans fighting against their country. Yeah, what they're fighting against is Donald Trump and indirectly is against the country. Comedic said, Trump is doing exactly what I voted for. Well, whether people voted for him or not, he's doing what he said he was going to do. Generally, he is. Tim Dog says, speaker of truth, respect you, sir. Thank you. Karina said, they went from what if it isn't a narcotics boat to it's not about it being a narcotics boat. Yeah, they really have. El Pilos said this guy is spreading misinformation. First of all, no such thing as misinformation. What do I have wrong? Astro said, Trump isn't perfect, but this is what I voted for. Nobody's perfect. Everything has a trade-off. It's just a matter of what trade-offs are you willing to accept. If this administration, Stay Free said, if this administration didn't release the videos, we would even be talking about this. I agree. John said, I've joined your fan club for 100 days. Thank you, John, for joining the fan club. Comedic Ohio, thanks for the follow. Brett says, is there any proof news media has more intel than defense? No, they don't have more intel. They don't have any intel. News media has headlines, and they got to do what they got to do to draw clicks and eyeballs. That's their business. Brooke Martello, good morning. John, thanks for the heart. Yeah, say you rule. Thank you. User says, call OPSEC, Operational Security. What are you referring to? Highway said, Department of War doesn't mess around. I agree with that. Big Pop said, they can kill just on their intelligence, right or wrong, like weapons of mass destruction. Well, it's not a parallel, so that's a non sequitur. You trying to draw that parallel.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
Okay. Department of Defense makes their decisions based on intelligence that they've already gathered. Yes, they can do that because these boats and these people on these boats have been deemed as terrorists. That's why they can do it on their intelligence. So you need certain things have to be in place so they can kill on intelligence. It's not just random. Talker 23 mil says, just like we swore someone had, where was I? Lost my spot in the comments again, folks. I think we might get to the bottom of the comments in a minute. Talker said, just like we swore someone had weapons of mass destruction, it's hard to believe our government. Fair enough, but this is a different situation. This is not the same as WMDs, folks. I reject the parallel between what's happening here and the WMDs. We went into a country and destroyed their whole system, removed their leader, and tried to install democracy behind the WMD's lie. This is not the same thing at all. And we're not taking anything. We're doing it all from the comfort of our own homes, so to speak. Nana Cat said, get a fire hose because the soundboard is on fire. Yes, it is. Another thing said, close up of the boat showed many bundles of what is typically known as narcotics bundles. Yes, it did. John said, thanks for explaining a lot of controversial topics respectfully and non-biased. Well, thank you. You're welcome. Kay Norris said, I love what you are saying. Thank you. Mama Nix said, is about more than Venezuela? Well, the topic here today is the boats from Venezuela. John said, can you do a day about the Honduran ex-president pardon? I don't know. It would have to be a big enough story for me to care, and then a big enough story that people are that interested in it. I know some of you are, but not everybody is. Difference Maker said, what are we talking about? We're talking about the drone strikes that's happening from our Department of Defense. Committee said, USA is the big daddy. We are fortunate to have been born here. I agree. Michelle, thanks for the share. Big Pop said the DOD must get congressional approval for attacks. Not on every attack. It depends on what the attack is, who they're doing it on, and what's the reason behind it. So if they're deemed a terrorist organization, DOD does not need congressional approval. We talked about that already here today. Comedic already answered that one. Big Pop said, what was it then? What are you asking about? Michelle, thank you for the map Polaris, star map Polaris. Marwan said, Trump is really playing Bush's playbook on the war on terror. It's the same thing. I don't think so. I think Bush's playbook on the war on terror was way more pernicious than anything Donald Trump is doing. We went into countries and sent our troops into other countries, put boots on the ground to fight in other countries behind what George Bush did. Donald Trump's not doing that. Where have we sent troops? Where's Donald Trump sent any troops? So we cannot draw a parallel between what George W. Bush did and what Donald Trump is doing. That's a reach. Matthew said, are you an attorney? No, I just play one on TikTok. Christy, thank you for the heart and to go popular. Karina said, Hunter promoted Nose Candy on live TV. He really did. Jeanette, thanks for the follow. Michelle said, I think you are such a smart man. I enjoy watching you daily. I hope you got my gift. Yes, I did get the gift, and I appreciate the compliment, Michelle. Thank you. Jake Lancaster, did I see Pete Hegseth's X post with Franklin? No, I didn't see it. Wag said, good morning. It's about time we start protecting ourselves from the cartels. Yes, and you can thank Donald Trump for that. Comedic, thank you for the rose. First gift you ever sent. Thank you. D, thank you for the follow. B said, the U.S. is violating international law with these strikes. What international law? There ain't no international law unless we say it is. So even if you're right that we're violating international law, who wrote that law? Who enforces the law? And what the hell are they going to do about it? Those are the three questions I would ask you if you truly believe what you just said. Jazzy's man said, funny, TDS. What about BDS, Biden derangement syndrome? Just flipped by party affiliation. There was no Biden derangement syndrome. Joe Biden himself was deranged. You set yourself up for that one. Nobody was deranged about Joe Biden. I think Joe Biden was deranged. It was Biden derangement syndrome, meaning Joe Biden had derangement. And it was a syndrome. And it was a it was a syndrome that he had. So no, there was no BDS. Matthew, my podcast is called Work on Your Game. It comes on Apple and Spotify every single day. It's about 25 minutes per episode. It comes out every single day on Apple and Spotify, and I record it on YouTube too, but you can listen to it. Nathan said, I freaking love this platform. Me too. Michael Fuzz said, how do you know they're cartel members? By the information released by our Department of Defense, which is appointed by our president, which was voted for by us. That's how I know. He got my lighter, said, you live in America and don't like America, get out. Generally, I agree with that. Wag said, crazy to see a president actually doing what he told you he was going to do while campaigning. Yeah, it is crazy. David Smith Sincere, thanks for the follow. Wag said, where were the complaints when Barry took out U.S. citizens with drones? Nobody cared, which is crazy, right? If Donald Trump had a drone strike that took out a U.S. citizen, we wouldn't hear the end of it for a month. Barack Obama took out more than one, and nobody said anything. Jay Bird said, Trump is the only president that has actually delivered on his campaign promises, in my opinion. Well, he's trying to deliver on a bunch of them. Jake said, Jasmine, it was Jazalyn is how she pronounced her name. But I don't think she's in here anymore. Is the MVP of the live. Yeah, she did get the MVP today. She got the most awards. Marky Man said, have I seen the footage of the cartel members loading the boats? I didn't see it. Veteran Pearls, thank you for the lightning bolt. New York Knicks asked a couple weeks ago, did you look into the self-defense in Frisco? Yeah, we talked about that extensively when it happened. So any of you remember that self-defense case in Texas where the high school boy who was black stabbed the other high school boy who was white, and a white boy died, and then the black kid went to jail, and then he got bail, he got bond, and now that trial was set to happen. I don't remember when that trial is supposed to start. And you know when that trial begins? But New York Knicks, you're asking about that. I did live streams on that subject. I did probably 2 or 3 live streams on the topic when it happened. So I've talked about that extensively. Look on my YouTube channel, you'll see the replays. When the trial happens, we'll talk about it again. Wag said it could be enough for a show to compare and contrast the pardons between Trump and Biden. Maybe. I usually speak on current events, not just something that happened. Usually on here, I do current events. So usually I just look up what's the biggest story and I talk about that. Tennessee Christie, thanks for the follow. D. Smith said, I'm glad I'm European. All right, shout out to Europeans out there. Rasta King said, Trump isn't deranged. No, Trump is not deranged. I think Biden himself was deranged. Now, people have derangement about Trump, but I don't think Trump is deranged. Jake Lancaster said, Biden's 4 years was derangement. For him or for other people? Max said, Biden never did the right thing for people to stand against it like they do to Trump. Well, Biden wasn't doing anything. Who knows who the hell was running the country when Biden was president? That's the issue. Katie said, I'm so late today, but I still want to send out my daily love and hug. So I appreciate you, Katie. Nana Cat said, these people act like there's no people on your comment cut off. Nick said, you seem to be too honest to be a politician, but sound very intelligent, keeping us informed on truth. Yes, I am too sane to be a politician. To be a politician, you got to become a professional liar. I don't want to be a professional liar. I can lie every now and then, but I don't want to do it as a full-time job. So New York Knicks, I appreciate the compliment. If you want to be a successful politician in America, you have to lie for a living. I don't want to do that. Carla said, a little late, but Biden was deranged. No, yes, he was. And again, Joe Biden might have had cancer the whole time. Yeah, you know, they announced that he had cancer right after he wasn't in office anymore. He might have had cancer the whole time. They didn't want to say it because then they would have said, you got to get him out. But actually, he should have did that because had he gotten out, they could have put Kamala in as the actual sitting president. She would have technically become the first woman president and the first person of color woman president. And she probably would have had a better chance of winning the damn election. So if Joe Biden's ego, or really Dr. Jill Biden's ego, is what hurt Kamala's chances of winning that 2024 election, if we're going to be honest, he should have stepped down and let Kamala become president. But he's talking about I'm going to run for a second term, but he could barely speak, which makes no sense. So Joe Biden is responsible for where the Democrats sit right now. B said the U.S. violating UN Charter Article 2, 4, also ICCPR Article 6 of all the C. First of all, who the hell cares about a UN Charter? Again, who's enforcing it? What are they going to do about it? And why does the USA need to care? So, B, you're going into the weeds and these details that you're bringing up. I'm not looking into these. Let's just say that you're right. The answer is, so what? What are you going to do about it? R. Philly, I saw that the Netflix is 50 Cent actually made the Netflix thing about the Diddy trial, but everything in there I already knew about. I followed the entire trial. Y'all who've been watching me for at least 8 months. You know, we talked about the trial. I talked about the trial every day it was happening. We went over the trial. We went over the testimony. We went over the verdict. We went over the sentencing. We went over everything. So everything that's in that documentary is either coming from his background, which I know about, or that Can't Stop, Won't Stop movie he put out like 10 years ago, which I saw, or the trial, which I followed. So there's nothing in that series. There's a 4-part series on Diddy on Netflix. Those of you who didn't see it, just came out yesterday. I listened to / watched the whole thing yesterday. I put it on 1.5 speed and just listened to it. There was nothing new in there, as far as I'm concerned, because I've been following Diddy's stuff since the music stuff. So it wasn't that great. Nora said, I think the high school let the kid graduate. Yes, they did, but he had to take classes from home. But I'm talking about the trial itself. I don't care about him graduating. The trial, I want to know when the trial starts. New York Nick said June 1st. I'm new to your show and love listening to your info. So the trial starts in June. So that's when that starts, we'll be talking about it again when that trial begins. Brooke Martella, thank you for the heart. Caricature said, should foreign-born non-U.S. people be put in U.S. political leadership? Well, you don't get put in leadership. You get chosen. You got to run for office. But all it is, you can't become president if you are not born in America. But you can become other things. Mayor, governor, congressperson. Arena said the media and influencers didn't instruct the Dems to be outraged about Biden. Yeah, but a lot of Democrats act like that the media was going after Joe Biden, which is ridiculous. John said, so deranged, that's why so many auto pen signatures are being canceled, allegedly. B said, violates customary international law on sovereignty and prohibition on reprisals and assassinations. Bees, who are you trying to convince here? Who cares? I mean, I understand. I appreciate you pulling up these details that you claim are accurate, but the answer to everything you're pulling up is who cares? Who's enforcing it and what the hell are they going to do about it? I need you to answer that question before you tell us more details of what the USA allegedly is violating. The USA answers to nobody. So them violating doesn't mean anything. Wag said, Democrats supported all that BS. They right, left, right and wrong, right and left. This is true. Leah, thank you for congrats on getting the gifter badge, 150 bolts, lightning bolts. Nora said, what do you think about the Nashville special election? How did that crazy girl get that many votes? I heard about it, but I wasn't following it closely. I don't live in Nashville, but I heard about it. I heard that she was saying like, hey, we lost, but look how close it was. I think that's a bellwether for Republicans in Tennessee to wake up. That's what I think it means. Jake Lancaster can say, can we get a moment of silence for all the TDS libs in today's live? RIP to your feelings. Not yet, Jake, because they're going to come back tomorrow with a different story. So that's the thing about people who have TDS. If one thing doesn't work, they come back with the next thing. It's like what's the name of that TV show that people used to watch where it was all the zombies running around and you had to keep killing zombies? The Walking Dead. That's the people with TDS. They're like the Walking Dead. You kill one zombie, another zombie pops up. So they're not going away. Sarah Gonzalez says, I was watching when you were talking about Jane and Daphne Boop live down. Yeah, I got suspended on TikTok. That was the last time I got suspended, actually, Sarah Gonzalez. My last suspension was at the end of May of this year when I was talking about the Diddy trial after the verdict came in. And I said something about those two women who testified against Diddy at his trial, the two girlfriends. It was Cassie and it was 50 Cent's baby mom who testified against him. And I had something to say about them. There's a certain phrase that I use over and over again, a 4-word phrase that I can't say because TikTok suspended me for saying it. I said it like 5 times and he suspended me the 5th time. So I can't say it anymore. Vince's Toy Gallery said, I bet your son is excited about Christmas. He doesn't quite understand the concept. He's only 3. He doesn't quite understand the concept, but he understands the concept of when he sees Amazon packages, he thinks one of them has to be for him. He understands that. Did he have sunglasses on this morning? Not that I saw, but he's eating breakfast right now. D. Smith said, there are no left-wing politicians in the USA. Lack of education. You think politicians left-wing in USA? What does that mean? What do you mean by that? Courtney said, Nashville had a lot of Dem votes, but all other counties were red. Okay, makes sense. Marky Man said, King Neptune will enforce the law of the sea. Yeah, so Bees hasn't answered the question when I asked, why does these things matter? He didn't say anything. Karina said, people swore that Trump endorsements don't work. No, they work when Trump gets engaged. If he actually gets engaged, his endorsements mean a lot. Laura Iggy said, the gift that keeps on giving. Not influencing said, my 3-year-old thinks every package is his. Yeah, that's the thing now. Kids don't care about Christmas now. They just care about the Amazon deliveries because they know the gifts and toys come in Amazon. So anytime they see Amazon, they think it's for them. I have friends with kids who are much older than mine, and they had this issue years ago. So that's the new thing with kids now. They don't care about Christmas. Christmas is only one day. Amazon packages come every day. So that's more to Christmas for them. B said, United Nations bodies enforce it. There is global police officer to hand out justice. Are you joking, Beads, or are you just are you joking here? Or are you being serious? United Nations ain't gonna do shit. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. D. Smith said, a lack of education means you think there are left-wing politicians in the USA. D. Smith, what do you mean? What are you talking about? United Nations ain't gonna do a damn thing. D. Smith, D. Smith, I need you to explain what you were talking about when you say there are no left-wing politicians. What exactly do you mean? So everybody, I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. Let me recommend a book to you all because people often ask me. I recommend The Mirror of Motivation, The Self-Guide to Self-Discipline. This book is all about how you show up and give that's the third day. This book is all about how you be the best version of yourself so you can do what you need to do and have what you want to have. The book's free. Just cover the shipping. TikTok, I'm giving this book away for free. I'm not asking people to buy it. I'm telling them they get it for free. So don't give me a warning. Get the book for free by going to mirrorofmotivation.com. Mirror of Motivation. Take out the word the. Mirrorofmotivation.com. Just cover the shipping. We will ship this book physically. I will physically ship this book to your doorstep. It's not a PDF. I will physically ship you the book. Mirrorofmotivation.com. This is a good entry point into my world. I've written 43 books, but we don't use every book as an entry point. We only use a few of them for entry points. So any of you asking me about a book, I often recommend the same books over and over again because we only use a few entry point books. All the rest of them you get inside of our ecosystem. You want to go to a higher level than just a book, you need to get into my Power Presence Mastermind. That is the link in my profile. So if you're on TikTok, text me the word power. The number is 305-384-6894. Can somebody one of the moderators please post and pin the number 305-384-6894. 305-384-6894. Send a text to that number with the word power. Text me the word power and we'll tell you more about our Power Presence Protocol. That is my mastermind program. The mastermind is not this manual. You get the manual when you're in the mastermind. We do not sell this book. You do not buy this book. This book is not for sale. I'm not selling it to you. You only get this when you're a member of my mastermind, but this manual is 400 pages long. I'm telling you that not to impress you, but to impress upon you that this is a very in-depth program that is all about the final level of mastery where your presence is so strong. They say it for you. You don't have to explain it. That is all going through my mastermind. You want to have me as a direct coach. So if you like listening to me on these live streams, imagine when you're in my mastermind, have me as your direct coach. That's what that program is all about. Get into the Power Presence Protocol Mastermind by texting the word power to my number, 305-384-6894. Thank you, Leah, for posting that. 305-384-6894. Text the word power, POWER, and you'll get more information about getting into the mastermind. So I do these live streams, everybody, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. I'm usually done by 10. I started a little bit late today, so I did a little bit of overtime. Thank you to the commentators and the moderators. We're at 196,000. Can we get the 200,000 likes real quick, folks? Can y'all just tap the screen? We get the 200,000 likes. We're at 196,000 right now. Can we get the 200,000 likes? We're at 197. 3,000 more will be at 200K likes. We do 100K every single day on here. Some days we go extra, we get to 200. So we got almost 200 here today. Let's get 200,000 likes. Just tap the screen, everybody. Get the 200,000 likes. Thank you to everybody who has left gifts. Thank you for everybody who lit up the gift gallery. Thank you for those who joined the fan club. We just hit 200,000 likes. Thank you, everybody, for helping me get to the 200,000 likes. Thank you for the pinned comment. Again, my number 305-384-6894. Thanks to the regulars, the commentators, the dissenters, the lurkers, those of you who are just watching and not commenting. I appreciate you all as well. The replay to this live will always be on my YouTube channel. The link to my YouTube is in my profile on TikTok. Those of you on TikTok, the link to my YouTube is on my profile. My YouTube is just at Dre All Day. What else do I need to know? I'm on X at Dre All Day. I'm on Instagram at Dre Baldwin. You want to get further into my world, then send me a text message. That's the best way. Text me the word power or text me the word live if you want links to all the books you can get from me. I have more than one book. You want to get links to the book, text me the word live, L-I-V-E, or just text me the word power. You want to get into my mastermind, have me as your direct coach. Text me. I'm not going to give you any other thing. I don't want to confuse you. Text the word live to get the link to all the live stuff, all the links, all the YouTube, everything. Text the word power if you want to get into my mastermind, have me as your direct personal coach. Everybody have a great Wednesday. I will see you all tomorrow morning. I'll see you all tomorrow morning. A topic to be determined as usual. Whatever's going on in the news. Hopefully something about Donald Trump. That seems to draw the most attention. So shout out to Donald Trump. God bless America. All right, everybody have a great Wednesday. We are out of here. Work on your game. We out.